Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be showing you how to set up and then play a solo game of Loam, the Game of Soil Biodiversity. So this is our setup for a single player. You can play with up to 4 players. It's a lot of game for a very small box. But this is our solo setup. Everybody begins with a root zone health tracker and 3 chits, one for each of your different stats here: structure, nutrients, and food web. You begin with a point tracker, which doubles as a reference card. You don't necessarily need the point tracker until the end. You can feel free to look at it so you know how you're scoring your communities as you go. But if you need a rules reference, there's a nice reference card on this side as well. I don't need it, so I'm going to stick with this one side. You begin with 3 inputs. These are your actions. Inputs allow you to place creatures, alter the soil, do all kinds of interesting things throughout the game. You have to play all 3 inputs during your turn, but you can play them in any order that you like. Each input has 2 different possible effects. You can choose which one you want to use each turn, and then resolve that effect. So you have you have 3 different actions you can take, but there are 6 possibilities. I'll place those here. You begin the game with 1 creature drawn from the deck, that's part of your hand, and 6 creatures revealed on the table. So I'm just trying to give myself plenty of space to see them. Wonderful. Okay, so we have a bunch of different types already available to us. Creatures in Loam come in 6 different types, represented by their color. The name of the type is written here, and it's in a certain color, and there's also a symbol at the bottom that denotes what type they are. This is an animal decomposer, for instance, so it's sort of this light blue color, and it's got this little symbol down at the bottom here. Different types offer you different stats when they're placed into your root zone, right? So the goal of Loam is to increase the health of your root zone by introducing these creatures to it. And to do that, we have to play our inputs. Before we start, we also have to reveal 3 behaviors. These 3 behaviors sort of form like a little bit of a marketplace. They're going to sit on the table here. And the way the behaviors work is if I place 2 creatures in my soil next to each other in the same community of these 2 types, order doesn't matter, I get to take that behavior, put it into my hand. So this will all make sense when I begin to play. And here I go. So for my first turn, I'm going to look at what I have available to me, and I'm going to try to build up some stuff in my soil, try to pull some creatures in. So these 3 inputs allow me to manipulate the soil, which is this section here. In a multiplayer game, any player can pull from the soil, right? But since it's just me, basically the soil is part of my hand, essentially, as well as this creature in it. The reason why I want creatures in my hand is some of these inputs require me to discard creatures from my hand. I'll get to the backs when I come to it. So the guy in my hand right now is a small predator. It's a nematode hunting protist, pretty neat, and he helps me build food web in my root zone. So I'm gonna start by looking at my behaviors, seeing if I can earn any. I can't at the moment. So I think what I'll do first is I will play let's start with attractive volatiles. I'll use the top option. This lets me draw a creature and then place a creature. So drawing is interesting. In Loam, you can draw either a random card from the deck or one of the creatures from the soil. I think what I'm going to do is draw a random from the deck because I want a certain type that isn't available right now. Cool. I got that type, but its level is a little bit too high for me to use right now. That's fine. And then I get to place a creature as well. So I'll then place I'll place this creature here, a red ant. So this red ant is going to sit in my root zone. And after I add it into my root zone, this creature is now placed. He starts a new community. Creatures are always placed into communities. They can be communities of 1 if they're just starting off. So this is my first guy in a community, and because he has a food web and a structure, I will increase both those stats by 1. So now he's affected my root zone by being in it. Pretty cool. So that was my first input played. Now I'm going to play Rich Exudates. I'll play the top version, which allows me to place 2 creatures. So I'll place an Animal Decomposer, who will get me 2 nutrients. And I will also place an Ecosystem Engineer, which will get me 2 structures and a nutrient. In real life, ecosystem engineers churn up the soil by burrowing through it. This included things like earthworms, some ants, all kinds of organisms that move the soil around and aerate it, which helps the structure quite a bit. All right, so I still have a little bit more I can do. I have one more input card, Antibiosis. This can allow me to rebuild the soil a little bit, which I think I'm going to do. So I'll use the bottom of Antibiosis. It lets me bury 3 from the soil and then grow it by 3. What that means is I bury 3, so I discard these. They go away. They're in the discard pile. And then I grow by 3, so I draw 3 new creatures to fill the soil up. So these 3 creatures are now here, and the bottom of Antibiosis allows me to do that and then draw 1. So I'll take 1 into my hand. I'll take this one here, and that is my turn. So at the end of the turn, there are a few things I have to do. 1, if any behaviors got used, I have to replenish it. They didn't. I'm going to keep them like that. I draw back up to 6 in the soil. Soil always finishes with 6 creatures in it. And I draw 1 creature card into my hand. So now I have a pretty decent sized hand of creatures. And additionally, I get all my inputs back. So this is my new hand at the beginning of turn 2. The game lasts for 3 turns. So there's 1. I'm going to use little tokens to remind me. In the real game, we're going to have a little turn tracker on this card. This is a prototype, so it's not on there in this version. So I'm going to start turn 2 by getting a behavior. And to do that, I'm going to play Rich Exudates. Lets me place 2 creatures. I will drop this Plant Mutualist here, and I'll put the Large Predator here. You notice that I'm building my soil in a very particular way. That's because creatures in Loam have different levels. The level of the creature tells you where and when it can be placed. So here I have 2 level 1s. The little pip here tells you what their level is. And then I have a level 2, and then I have 2 level 1s. Why is that? That's because a level 2 creature has to be placed in a soil, in a community that already has at least 2 level 1s in it, right? So this level 2 needed these 2 level 1s to be here in order to get placed. Level 1s can be placed anywhere. There's no restriction on them at all. So I could just drop these 2 level 1s here. Totally fine. Doesn't affect anything. They give me 2 food web in between them, 1 structure, and 1 nutrients. Awesome. And additionally, I get to take this behavior because you see their symbols match the symbols here. I put them in the same order here. You don't have to. They could have easily gone red and then yellow. Wouldn't have made a difference. But I get to hang on to this now. It goes into my hand, and it gives me a cool special effect that I can play later in the game. It's played just like an input, so during my turn, I can use it. The only difference is it's 1 use only. So after it gets played, it's done. It's discarded. So now you notice that I have these 2 level 1s here. I can place a level 2 again. I can drop a new level 2 because now my community can support them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the bottom of Attractive Volatiles. It allows me to place 1 creature and then grow the soil by 3. So I will place a level 2 Plant Mutualist here. Oh, and that stays there. That gives me 2 food webs, 1, 2, and a nutrient. And then I'm going to place, let's see. And then I get to grow the soil by 3. So 1, 2, 3. Soil's nice and healthy again, full of critters. Then I will use Antibiosis top, which allows me to place one creature and then shed one. And I'll explain what that means in a moment. So what I'll do is I will place a level 3 plant mutualist. Level 3 creatures can only be placed on top of 6 other creatures. So it doesn't matter what this combination of creatures is like. As long as there are 6 of them, you can place a level 3. 7 is the maximum size of a community. So this community is now finished. It's all done. So I will score my my root zone here. I get 3 nutrients, 1, 2, 3, and I get 2 food webs, 1, 2. Cool thing here, I've hit this little highlighted number, the number 8, and it says upgrade rich exudates. And what that means is that I now get to flip over my rich exudates card. And it stays flipped over for the rest of the game. It is now upgraded, rich exudates plus, and it has a more powerful effect. So as you grow your root zone and grow your communities and increase your stats, you actually do get some mechanical benefits as well. I'm just going to scooch this over a tiny bit. Okay. That's my... And yeah, I'm actually going to do one more thing this turn. I'm going to scooch these up a little. It's hard to get everything in play here. Like I said, it's a pretty large game for a very small box. There's lots of stuff going on here. I'm going to use my behavior card. It allows me to bury an ecosystem engineer or a large predator from my hand. And if I do, I get to place 2 additional creatures. So I'll play this. It gets discarded. It's out of the game. I will bury this large predator, so it's gone. And that'll let me place 2 more creatures this turn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a plant mutualist from my hand and a microbial decomposer from the soil. Remember, you can always place or draw from both. Right, you can always place from both. That gives me 2 nutrients, 1, 2, a structure, and a food web. Getting an extra food web puts me to 8, which allows me to upgrade antibiosis. Now, once I've done that, I've earned another behavior. See, I have a plant mutualist and a microbial decomposer here. This behavior requires those 2 types, so I'll take it and put it in my hand. Pretty good turn. Okay, so I'll call that a turn, and that's my turn 2. I will refill the soil up to 6. In this case, just need to do that. And then I will refill the behavior market back up to 3. Looking good. Okay, and then I get all my inputs back, including now 2 of them, which are upgraded. Pretty cool. So as I'm building these communities, you'll note that I'm trying to get diversity in both creature type and creature level. That's because when you score them at the end of the game, the more diverse they are, the more points they earn. So it's not just a game about upgrading your root zone, it's also a game about making sure that your communities are nice and diverse, because the more biodiverse they are, the better they will score you. So let's see. Pretty rough soil for me, to be honest. I think what I'll do is I will make it a little bit nicer, hopefully. I'll play Antibiosis bottom. It allows me to bury 3 from the soil, and then I can grow it by 4. So I'm going to get rid of these duplicates. There's a lot of duplicated creatures in the soil, creature types right now in the soil that I don't really want. So I'll bury these, but because it's upgraded, I get to grow it by 4. So the soil gets to be more diverse, which is pretty cool. Make sure you can see the types and levels there. So there's 4 creatures, extra creatures in the soil, and then I get to place 1. So I'm going to place a level 2 something, because I have now 2 level 1s here, and they need a level 2 to live with them. I could, in theory, place more level 1s and then drop level 2s later. That's totally fine, but I like to build them more systematically. Some people prefer to build them a little more chaotically. That is totally okay. But I want to try to balance my soil out a little bit, because balancing your root zone is worth a lot of extra points at the end of the game. I think that I should increase my structure. So I'll take an ecosystem engineer, and I'll put him here. That'll pull my structure up by 2, and my nutrients up by 1. Nutrients are a little too high right now. I want to get more structure and more food web. So what can I... There's a few things I can do to make that happen. So first, I will play rich exudates, and I'll use the top of rich exudates to draw one and then place 3 creatures. So I'll draw one at random from the top of the deck, and I got this animal decomposer, a carrion beetle. These are pretty cool beetles in real life, actually. They're very pretty looking, even though they have the sort of grim habit of eating dead animals. So I will place now 3. So I will do an ecosystem engineer, so I can get more structure. 1, 2, which allows me to upgrade attractive volatiles. It's on the plus side now, pretty good. Then I will place a, oh, you know what? I'll place the small predator from my hand, which gives me 2 food webs. Gets a little bit closer to balance there. And I have to do one more. I have to place it. I don't have a choice. I think what I'll do is I'll start a new community. Oh, and actually, you know what? I'll put this robber fly here. See, I'm breaking my normal rules here by putting another level 1. It doesn't really matter. In this case, it's better for me because I get to push these 2 up and ignore my nutrients. I don't want too many nutrients because it'll throw my soil out of balance. Okay, and I have one more input to play, and then the game is over. Let's see if I can make this a good turn. I'm going to use the top, I think, of attractive volatiles. It lets me draw 2, then place 2. I'm going to draw 2 at random. Ah, wonderful. That is actually pretty good for me. All right, so I'll then place my 2 creatures. I'll drop you here. I'll start a 3rd community. That gives me 1 structure and 1 food web. Then I will place... That's actually pretty good. Okay, then I'll finish this community off with a level 2. Not a level 3, that's fine. Didn't need it this time. With my carrion beetle that I drew, I'll go up 2 nutrients, up 1 structure. Bringing my soil almost perfect balance, which is pretty great. Okay, so that's actually the end of the game, and I can start scoring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start counting up each community and scoring each one separately. So, community number 1 here is only 1 creature, so it's only worth 1 point. That's totally easy to do. Now, for community number 2, we're going to count how many different types of creatures there are and how many different levels there are within those types. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creature types in this soil, which is perfect. We have all of them. That's great. So we get 1 point per type, and we get a +2 bonus because we have all of them. So 1, 2 puts us at 8. Additionally, you get an extra point for having a type with more than 1 level present. So we have our ecosystem engineers here. We have a level 1 and a level 2 engineer, so we get an extra point. So this is a 9-point community. Pretty good. Our last community has 1, 2, 3, 4 creature types in it. So not as biodiverse, but we have a lot of diversity of level. We have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3 plant mutualist. So that actually gives us +4 points for having all 3 of those. So that goes from a 4 to a 7 immediately. And now we can look at our balance. So we're only 1 apart. You can see down here there's extra points available for balancing your soil. If they're all identical, you get this number. If they're only 1 apart, you get this one, which is a 10 in this case. So I'm going to put the 10 here. That puts us at 10, 19, 16, 26, 27. Pretty good soil. And we can consult the rule book here to tell us how we did as a solo player. So one thing about Loam solo is you are playing against yourself, trying to beat your basically trying to beat your old high score. Since this is my first round, however, I get to sort of check the rule book and it'll tell me what level my soil is at. So let's see. We're at 27. That puts us at healthy soil. If I'd gotten 30 plus, we'd be at rich soil, which is currently the highest level. So we came in with a silver medal as far as this goes. This was a pretty successful game, actually. We did really well. just as a reference point, the lowest point you can get in this mode is 14 points or lower. That definitely does happen. Max's current high score, Max being the lead designer, is 36. So, I was pretty far away from that. I was really far from there. That's like a perfect game. But overall, this is a solo game of Loam. It plays very quickly. I think including the rules, this is about 20 minutes. Including teaching you the rules is about 20 minutes of play. It's not a very long game, but there's a lot of decisions to be made on every single turn. So I hope you all enjoyed this playthrough, and next time we'll do a playthrough with some of the additional scenarios. One thing that's great about the solo mode of Loam is there are a whole bunch of scenarios in the book that alter the rules and change how every turn works. So this was a basic vanilla game, but it can get a lot more complicated and a lot more interesting. So I will see you all later.